All right, and we have some breaking news related both to this story and the monsoon session for Parliament that you might remember is currently in session. Congress MP Shakti Singh Gohil has given the suspension of business notice. This is under Rule 267 in the Rajya Sabha over what he's calling the current ruling party's political vendetta against its political opponents with the misuse of agencies like ED, the CBI and IT. My colleague Pallavi Ghosh, our senior editor, is with us to bring us a lot more context on what this means. Pallavi, though to some degree, suspension of business notice, it is quite self-explanatory. Could you explain to our audiences, A, exactly what this means, and B, what the consequences could possibly be?
Well, 267 essentially means that there's going to be, they want a discussion on it, but it doesn't entail any voting. But obviously, I don't think the chair is going to agree to it, which means it sets a cue. It's an indication that this week again could be possibly a complete washout, both in Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. So there are two things which are going to start happening in Parliament when the Parliament reconvenes at 11 a.m. First, the issue will be raised by the opposition parties on why is it that 23 MPs have been suspended. It's arbitrary and the government doesn't want the voice of the opposition inside Parliament. That's one. And as far as the Congress is concerned, specifically, they're going to raise the issue about this ED questioning of Sonia Gandhi for the third day in a row. 6 hours of questioning yesterday. So the question they are asking is what we've been pointing out. There's been no FIR. It's an old case. She is someone who has not been keeping good health. And why is she being made to go through this kind of a torture?
Pallavi, could you explain to our audiences what we're obviously watching happen is also that the Congress is tying in on one side these issues of, for example, inflation that they've wanted there to be a discussion about with the question of Sonia Gandhi being targeted by the ED. Is that tying in happening because perhaps in the Congress there is a sentiment that the Sonia Gandhi issue might not be resonating as heavily as it should be, or is that perhaps not why they're doing that?
Well, I mean, see, the message clearly is also getting lost because if you look at the memorandum they submitted to Rashtrapati yesterday, at least they tried to submit to Rashtrapati yesterday, and the statements that they have been coming out, it's about the fact that these protests are not got to do only with Sonia Gandhi. It's got to do with people's issues like price rise, new GST slabs being imposed, so on and so forth. But, we were covering it yesterday. The posters were only about Sonia Gandhi. When the MPs were put into a Delhi police buses, they were only carrying placards and posters of Sonia Gandhi. And soundbite after soundbite is only about the fact that why is she being questioned about ED. So this criticism is certainly there, and I think the BJP is going to use it very effectively because they do the routine press conference at around 10 a.m. Is that why is it there's a sense of entitlement? If you're hitting the streets, why is it that you don't hit the streets? Why don't you see the entire cadre mobilized for the sake of the common man's issues? This entire cadre mobilized, chief ministers coming down to the national capital, Rahul Gandhi hitting the streets. It's only being done because they are objecting to the fact that someone from the Gandhi family is being questioned.
Pallavi Ghosh, thank you so much for providing us with that context. Right now we have some breaking news coming in from down south. We'll